tell us a little bit about yourself and your background before we start talking about Tally? Who are you?
Yeah, I'm Marie. I'm the founder or co-founder of Tally. Tally is a very simple way to create online forms and surveys, and we founded it 5 years ago. We're bootstrapped. We're intentionally small, so we have a very small team working on the product, and we now have over 1 million people around the world using Tally to create forms and surveys for all kinds of purposes.
Great. And is this your first company? What were you doing before that? What's your professional background?
I have a background in B2B marketing. So I kind of started my career at the Persgroep, which is a Belgian media publisher, one of the biggest companies in that industry. And I started in more like market research, turned into B2B marketing. And then I ended up in Ghent. I started working at In the Pocket as marketing manager there. So that's kind of how I got to know the product tech scene. And then I met my husband, Philip, and he has quite a track record in startups. He actually joined Netlog, 15 years ago. And together then we decided to build our first startup together, and that was called Hotspot, something completely different than Tally, a marketplace that connects hotels with travel influencers. Long story short, that kind of died because of COVID. We decided to launch it in the beginning of 2020, but that was the worst timing in history. We know now to launch something in travel tech. And then we came up with the idea of building Tally. So that's kind of how it went. Yeah.
Super interesting backstory, but I do want to know, you look at something like Tally or what it has become, there was already so much out there, Google Forms, obviously, Typeforms, so many like smaller companies trying to build something robust. What made you think like, yeah, that's not a red ocean at all. We have a chance and there's an opportunity. We're going to do this anyway.
Yeah, that's what everyone asks us. I mean, I must admit it was a bit of a gamble. We have like nice theories about it now, but we also didn't really know. What we did know is that we wanted to be bootstrapped, so we didn't have the budgets like the other players, and it is a very competitive market. There's tons of form builders out there. Form builders have existed since the beginning of the internet, so we were not planning to like reinvent the wheel here. We just wanted to innovate in certain areas, and we figured it would be easier to claim like a small niche of a very established big market than to educate the market, and then to claim like an entire niche. So that was the thinking behind it. And with forms, you mentioned Typeform and Google Forms. We've used all those ourselves, especially me, with a background in marketing. And we had actually used Google Forms for a first startup, and we just did it because it was free. But I remember having a conversation about how just ugly it was, and not customizable. And it was something that was bothering us. And then at the same time, you had Typeform, really, really nice product, like actually a product we've always looked up to, but very expensive for smaller companies, for indie hackers. That's kind of the space where we launched in, for solopreneurs. So we thought, like, what if we can do better? So we thought we could build a product that is just easier to use and also more affordable. And we were heavily influenced by Notion. We started Notion at the time for, managing our company. It wasn't a company yet, but we just loved spending time in the tool. And like, we kind of wanted to mimic that vibe. Like, what if we can build something that makes forms, more fun and less boring? Because that's kind of what Notion managed to do with note-taking in the very, very early stages. Like, they kind of made it sexy again and everyone's raving about it, and it's like carried by this big community. So we thought, what if we can do the same thing like Notion did to notes? What if we can make forms fun? And that's kind of the thinking behind it, and how we got started. Yeah.
You mentioned you reached 1 million users, which is fantastic. What I want to know is, how did you reach the first 1,000 users?
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting part. So it's mostly product-led growth right now. The product sells itself because it's quite viral by nature. You make forms and you make them to share with other people, and that's how other people discover our brand. But in the beginning, we didn't have, that early set of users. We also didn't have a network or anything like that in the productivity scene, as I call it. So we did cold outreach. We started building an MVP, and so we still do this. We build and we ship really fast. And I think after 2 months, we had something that kind of worked, and we started sharing it with friends and family first, which people always say you should not do that, but we kind of did. We're lucky to have some friends in the tech scene, so they gave us valuable feedback. And then we just went to Product Hunt, and I just started tracking all similar tools. So it didn't have to be a form builder, just like anything in no code, productivity, anything like that. And then I manually looked at the people who upvoted those tools, and I just made lists of thousands of people, found their contact details. So this was all before, ChatGPT and AI workflows kind of existed. Did that for 6 months, and got to just send them a message like, hey, I'm building this. We would just love your feedback if you want to, take it for a spin. We did target like founders, designers, people that work in product teams, because we figured that they might have more of a natural link to our product. Did that until we had 1,000 users. And then we launched on Product Hunt at the time, and that's kind of when organic growth started kicking in. And since then, we've been growing organically.
And I'm guessing your background in B2B marketing also helped in that sense, measuring outreach, keeping track of.
Yeah, I mean, I was working in an agency. I'd never worked at a SaaS before, so it was quite a change for me. But I guess I was used to the storytelling part of things, the branding, how to approach that. So that kind of helped. And then just being bootstrapped kind of forced us to keep things very simple. So it was more like, okay, let's just find people that might be interested in the product and let's send them a message. And so it was not, so it wasn't rocket science, just a pretty simple process. Yeah.
You're quickly gaining a reputation in the Belgian tech ecosystem for being bootstrapped and still growing as much and as fast as you are. Was it an intentional decision to do this on a shoestring budget and grow, based on revenue only, or was it just the way it turned out?
Yeah, a bit of both. We didn't have the goal to build the next unicorn or to have a big team. So it was pretty intentional that we wanted to keep things small, mainly because we are builders by nature. We don't really get excited by, having a big team or being managers, which is something that is kind of changing now as Tally is growing and we're learning as we go. So it was intentional. We kind of had the dream just to build a sustainable lifestyle business. That's how it all started. That's also why we were actually moving to Bali, which was cool at the time, because we wanted to become digital nomads. And we thought, what if we can just Philip is a full stack engineer. I have a background in marketing. We have quite complementary skills. What if we can just build something that would make us more than we would as freelance consultants? That was actually the dream. The dream. I mean, now it seems like a pretty modest dream, but that was the big goal for us. And that's kind of how we started building Tally. And so being bootstrapped was a no-brainer for us because it felt like we could do this by ourselves. I must say we had a bit of runway because Philip had sold his previous company, Delta, a crypto portfolio application that still exists in Ghent. And so we had the money to try out things for a year. If we wouldn't have had that, then probably, I had also worked for 10 years, so I had saved some money. So we thought we can try this and we'll see where it goes. And we kind of wanted to make money after 1 year. And in the end, we lost 6 months to COVID and our first startup, but then in the next 6 months, we kind of made it work. So it was, that's kind of how we rolled into it. And then afterwards, it became kind of part of our story. And it pushed us in a direction that we really liked. We did things differently than the VC-backed competitors. And then it kind of became our USP. So I wouldn't want to, do it any other way now. But so, yeah, we kind of rolled into it, I guess. Yeah.
That means you've already kind of answered my next question that I'm still going to ask, and you probably get this all the time. Do you envision Tally to always be bootstrapped, or
Yeah, we doubted a bit, especially I think in year two, because the growth was really speeding up and we were getting a lot of requests from investors. And then we thought like, oh, are we maybe being not ambitious enough by not taking money and not speeding up the growth? But I think at the same time, and that's also an important part of the story, we also had two kids since we launched Tally, and so it's been kind of a roller coaster for us to be able to manage all of it. And one part of the decision had more to do with our personal lives. Like we found it very challenging to have newborns and have a startup at the same time, and so we kind of wanted to stay independent and didn't want to have extra pressure from a board or investors. So that's one part of it. And then we also realized that we hadn't really cracked the formula. Like if we would get millions, at the time, like what would we do with it? And I think the strength in Tally is that we had the time to discover things, to try out things, to make mistakes, and that we didn't have to grow that fast. And that kind of, got us to where we are today. And I think now it's just part of our DNA. So I don't think we will ever raise, for Tally. But that doesn't mean that we're not curious to like maybe what comes afterwards. Like if we would do another one, or if we would ever have another startup, maybe we would consider it. But I think for Tally, probably not. It's not in the cards right now. Yeah.
But then on the flip side of that, imagine that this company stays on the course that it is, growing your ARR, I think is now around 2 million euros.
3 million
3
and
million,
a
sorry.
half now. Yeah.
So does that mean that you could also see this company just lasting for 100 years and just?
Yeah, that's actually a conversation we had yesterday. Like how we were thinking about it was more like, okay, we're working towards a goal and then, maybe sell the company at one day, like how, most founders probably think about building the business. But there's form builders, like, I don't know if you know Jotform, it's a US company. I think they've been around for 25 years. They're huge. They're bootstrapped, and so that's actually also possible. Like maybe this can last very long. I don't know. I feel like the market is changing a lot, especially with AI. So it's hard to look into the future that far. But I think as long as we enjoy doing it, I can see the company just growing and being around for another decade. That's a possibility. Yeah.
Great. You also said you're intentionally small. You're a team of 4 here in Belgium and another 4 remotely, you told me earlier. Some people really get a kick out of like adding people
Yeah.
to solve a problem. Clearly, you guys don't. So
No.
how do you think about like team formation? Developing skills that you might not have in the team already. Like, how do
Yeah.
you think about that?
That's been quite a journey for us. I think we waited a bit too long with hiring. We did everything just by ourselves for 2-3 years, and then we kind of got stuck because we offer a product that has a very large free section, and we also support all the free users. So there's a lot of customer support in that involved, and we were doing all of that by ourselves because we believed that by doing that we would get the best idea of what the users need, and that turned out to be true as well. But also it kind of got to the point where we were just doing support and kind of drowning in the day-to-day and couldn't really grow the product anymore. And then we had to hire people, so it's kind of the opposite of what a startup usually does. So it took us quite long, and then we worked with people remotely at first because we thought that's how you grow a company right now. And that didn't work for us. Like we're also 2 people sitting in a room. We know each other very well. A lot of things are just being discussed as we go, and so communication was quite different with people that don't know us at all, that are on the other side of the world, different time zones. So we figured out like that maybe this was not the way for us, and then so another year later we decided to join the Winter Circus. So we worked from home for 4 years on Tally, and then the Winter Circus was kind of it was just the perfect timing for us because we needed a space. We needed to be surrounded with other people building startups, and we kind of needed to get out of our bubble. And we did that, and then we just shifted completely from remote, maybe working even with more junior people because we didn't have the budget at first, to hiring senior people, full stack, with a lot of ownership. In here, we come to the office every day in Ghent and we work together. And that has been kind of an eye-opening experience for us. Obviously, you need to find the right people to do that. It's not that easy to join such a small team and to own a bit of everything and to work very independently. So we're learning, and we have two, amazing Wouter and Niels, first engineers that joined Tally, and we're now looking for a bit more, for a marketing manager, a designer. And I think by now we kind of know that we just need people with some years of experience under the belt that can contribute in a lot of different ways and that just match the vibe and match the team. And so yeah, to answer your question, I think the team size, the growth for team size, is not a metric for us. Like if we don't have to hire, we won't. So we find it easier actually with a smaller team. Like it's already a lot of people for me. So I don't think we'll be with 20 people next year. But there will be a day, obviously, and we're finding people that have skills that we don't have, and that just makes everything a lot more interesting. Yeah.
I think we've already established that you're quite the atypical startup in many ways. You're also atypical in the sense that you are a female co-founder, which already is quite rare in Europe, but also in Belgium, according to the numbers that I've just seen. And you're also a husband and wife team, which
Yes.
makes you even more sort of extraordinary in that sense. How do you think about that?
Yeah, for us, it's like Tally is kind of our third or our first baby. So for us, it kind of became natural to work and live together. But it took quite some steps to get here. We figured out a routine that works for us because obviously work-life balance is that's not really a thing when you work together with your partner every day. Having kids in the mix is also, that was not the smartest choice, maybe to do that at the same time as starting our own startup. But how I think about it is that for us, this is like a crazy journey we're on. And it's very special that we can share this. I think it would be really difficult to have to have one person working on Tally and one person having a normal job because it is so consuming. We talk about it all the time, and I think the other person would go crazy. Also, just for the amount of hours that we put in the business, I think that will be a hard discussion to have at home. And because we're both in it, it kind of flows more naturally, I think. If someone needs to work, in the evenings or the weekend, it's not really an issue because, we're building this thing together and we kind of understand what it takes and the energy that we need to put into it. So that works well. And then we just have a lot of systems that, made life a bit easier. Like we literally have shifts because we figured out that that's the easiest thing for us. So there's a morning and an evening shift. If you have the morning shift, it means that you are responsible for the kids, getting them ready, taking them to school, and the other person can just wake up at 7 and go to work, and then you would in the evening have the evening shift, you pick up the kids, and then the other person can work later again. And it's something that we discovered throughout the years that works really well for us. There's no exceptions as well. So if you want to go to a party or anything, you need to make sure there's a babysit. And it works for us because this kind of gives us the possibility to put enough hours in the business and to be there for the kids as well. And obviously we sacrifice some time as a couple, but yeah, we also learned throughout the years that you cannot have it all. Yeah.
And about being a woman in tech, female co-founder, do you
Yeah.
think you want to grow into a role model for others, or is that not something that really occupies your mind?
That's definitely not a goal. What I have noticed is because we build in public, so we share a lot about our story, is that more women reach out to me and are kind of inspired by it. And so that does make me think about the importance of doing this. Like people always ask me this question, like, how do we get more female founders? And for me, the answer is always, we just need more examples. We just need people to build great products and have good businesses, and we just need more of that. And I have a small daughter myself, and I find it pretty cool that she can see us do this. And this I hope for her generation that this will be the default. You'll have women leading companies in all kinds of industries. So I do realize the impact that it has, and it's one of the reasons why I keep sharing a lot and being very open and doing podcasts like this, because I think it can be inspiring if you just see more people do this thing. So I think that's just part of the solution. Yeah.
Great answer. Okay, let's talk ecosystems. You have been and are part of the Ghent ecosystem. Do you also have a view on the broader Belgian tech ecosystem? Do you follow what's going on there? Do you keep track? Do you have an opinion on it?
I think just by joining the Winter Circus, and obviously we're a bit of a bubble here in Ghent, it gave us a large network, and we get to know a lot of other startups and how they do things. And I think we're still very much in this Ghent bubble. Like, I don't have any contact with anyone in Brussels, for example, which is crazy for such a small country. I think there's definitely an evolution going on where you had some successes in Belgium, and I feel like Netlog is one example. There's other examples there where we're a few generations further. Those people are starting their own companies, and it's really like this new wind of young entrepreneurs doing things a bit differently, maybe, but having exits, like a henchman, giving back to the ecosystem, starting to invest again, and that's extremely powerful. So we're pretty grateful that we can be a part of it on this small scale. And I think it's exciting times to build a business in Belgium, and it might have not been like that 10 years ago. It's really easy to raise money. It's really easy to get contacts. Like, I can just text Louis Jonkere in the Winter Circus and say I have a problem with this, and he'll connect me with like someone that has decades of experience in finance or HR, and I think that the network and bringing that closer, it's pretty powerful to be a part of that. So yeah, that's kind of how I see it in a pretty positive way for now. Yeah.
Great. We haven't really talked about Tally, the product, as much as we probably should have. But I did notice yesterday or the day before you launched something new. It was very AI driven,
Yeah.
which begs the obvious question: how much is AI a factor in what you're building as a product, but also how you run the company?
It's kind of crucial, especially, we have a small team, so everything needs to go as efficient as possible. There's a lot of automation. We use tools like a Make or a Zapier especially me, for automating a lot of marketing workflows. But then the AI component in that, so within the product, we waited quite long to embed AI within Tally, because we kind of, we started getting these user requests about 2 years ago, like, oh, we want AI, but no one really, if we would ask, like, what do you want to do with it? No one really had an answer. It was just like, you need to have AI now because, there's this boom. So we waited quite long, also because we didn't have the team to build it. And so this year we decided, like, okay, our USP has always been the simplest way to create forms. So UX is really important. And there's just nothing easier than building a form by just a prompt, like, build me this bug report form and make it look like my website, and you just enter the URL and it's there. It doesn't get a lot easier than that. So we decided, like, this can be a major improvement for Tally product wise, but also for support. So the idea is that we're building this AI assistant. It helps you build the forms, but it also helps you design the forms. It also helps you troubleshoot. So, there's things like logic that you can implement in your forms. Quite a lot of people get stuck there, reach out to our support team. If the AI assistant can just help them out, it's a double win for us. It makes it easier for the user, and there's less support for us. So that's kind of the thinking behind it. Plus, we don't really have a lot of players in our field that are approaching it in this way. So we felt like, if we can, innovate again and make Tally really the simplest way to create forms, but with using AI, which it just became a no-brainer, I think, these days. It can position us a bit in an even more unique way. So embedding it in the product as we speak, and we just launched the beta indeed, and we're just getting people on it to try, because it's really interesting to see how people actually use it. We have a lot of assumptions, and people are using it in very different ways. So we're trying to learn from that. And then within the company, yeah, the engineers, obviously, they do everything. I think it's Claude Code now that is like their go-to assistant. They can just build a lot faster and a lot better by using AI. I think prompt engineers, it's a really real thing. We'll probably our engineers are kind of turning into those as well. And then for me personally, I've been building my first agents since last week. Just the things where I know how they work and I have figured it out, and I'm just trying to make them smarter and automate them. Usually, yeah, use ChatGPT for everything. Use AI tools to edit videos, anything like that. Yeah, we had a copywriter that we don't need anymore because copywriting has kind of been replaced by LLMs. So there's definitely a lot of use of AI within the company and soon within the product as well.
Great. What do you know about Syndicate One, and how do you see it sort of fitting into the ecosystem that you see today?
So I don't know them very well because I don't really have experience, with players like Syndicate One. I mean, I know they invested in literally every startup that counts in Belgium, so they're definitely kind of doing a great job. I actually met someone that works at Syndicate One and at an event of the Tate, and I was kind of inspired by the way they approach things. Like, I think they are looking at how can we connect startups, how can we learn from each other, which content can we make. Like the podcast is one of those. So I think it can only accelerate what's happening within the startup scene. But no personal experience with how they guide startups or how that process goes. No idea.
All good. What is a fun fact about you or you and Philip that people don't typically know or ask about?
Wow, a fun fact. I think people usually ask about how we work and how we live together, but I think we're actually very down to earth, simple people. We're not really looking for a lot of visibility or a lot of money, so to say. I think we really enjoy doing what we love, and this is what we're doing right now. And then obviously, the dream is just not having to worry about money while doing what we love. That's kind of our life goal. And yeah, we're kind of succeeding in that right now. And I think probably maybe people might see us differently through press or anything like that. But we're kind of just we're just winging it and trying out a lot of things and try not to have too many opinions or assumptions because we feel like nobody really knows what they're doing. So we're pretty, I think, humble in that regard, and we're just very open and curious to anything that's happening and that's coming to us. Not super fun, but yeah.
Fantastic.
So you mentioned before the interview that you don't have titles in the company. So how does that work?
How does that work? There's simply no titles. We're only 4 people here in the office, so that kind of removes all the need for hierarchy or titles or anything like that. I mean, obviously, we're co-founders. The engineers are full stack engineers, but that's kind of it. And I guess when we get bigger, you might have a CEO or a CTO or anything like that. But I think there's just no added value in having those when you don't have to. And responsibilities between us are pretty clear. So, we just haven't really thought about titles.
Function based.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think the biggest one is that we waited. I already mentioned that we waited really long with hiring until we basically burned out and couldn't do anything anymore. And I think we always use the excuse of being bootstrapped and there's not a lot of money, so we should wait. But actually, we were making money. We were pretty profitable since the start. So we probably should have started thinking bigger a bit sooner. And I think we, stayed quite small just because of how we think and how we are. And joining the Winter Circus again made us think a bit bigger and dream a bit bigger as well. And so I think that's just a positive thing just to do from the start. You know, you can wait to scale until it hurts, but you shouldn't wait until things break. And I think we kind of did that. To keep things simple. I think simplicity, it's often like a value of companies, but for us, it's really our strategy. We are very intentional about keeping things simple. It's the product, it's in the way we do marketing, it's how we design, it's how we work. Everything is simple, everything is really easy to understand for everyone, and it helps with a ruthless prioritization and just doing the only thing that matters that day. So like simplicity is definitely like the core thing that comes back when we talk about Tally. I think you cannot build your own company between 9 to 6. Like it just doesn't exist. Like it takes a lot more hours than that. Does that mean that you have to expect this from your team as well? I think that's a different scenario. People that join the team are, even if they have a lot of ownership, not as invested as you are because it's your company, you're the founder, and you know, it always stops with you, every problem there is. So I think for us, the first 4 years of running Tally, there were 2 days that we didn't work, and those are the 2 days that our kids were born. That not one of us was working, and those are the things you don't see that happens behind the scenes. It has changed though, because I do feel like I also need more time off to be energized and to be able to build again. So I think now it is turning more in. I mean, it's definitely not a 9 to 6, but we work less hours than we used to, just because we're forced to by the kids, but we also know it's more healthier and it will last us a bit longer. I feel like working in the office together also helps to be more productive. Like working from home makes everything a bit more fluid, and maybe you know you need more hours to get the same output. So the whole debate about how long you should work, I don't think it really matters. I just think it comes down to you need to put a lot of hours if you want to build something that works. But I don't think you should expect that from everyone in the company. You want people to show up and to, if it's necessary, you know, to work more. But to have, I think, a healthy work-life balance is important. You know, if you cannot stay healthy, then you're not going to be able to last very long as well. So. Not sure what the best thing is.